sorry, Latif, I didn't hear what you said. Okay, great. Yeah. Decorum. Listen, Billy Joel, not wedge just from wedge.
I'm not doing it now. Too hot. Alexis is 24. Jake is 22. I'm homeless. I can still be good. Joe is trying to take care of her dog.
I'm afraid of heights.
It didn't start off great.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to the meeting and joining us in the chamber, as well as everyone who's watching us from home. I apologize. We have a late start a little bit because of traffic issues around the downtown area. It took some of us to get here a little bit later. With that said, we'll start the meeting. If you can join me in the salute to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Ms. Del Rossi? Ms. Doherty?
Here.
Mr. Lay?
Here.
Ms. Martin?
Here.
Ms. Thompson?
Here.
Mayor Chow?
Here.
Ms. Chun?
Here.
7 present.
We now are at the item number 3 on the agenda, on the minutes. Any questions or comments on the minutes? Ms. Doherty?
Thank you, Your Honor. Before we get to the minutes, I'd like to be heard. We have a motion on tonight, motion 6.1 by Ms. Del Rossi, that is clearly out of order. This motion violates executive session confidentiality. We did not vote to release the minutes. It also violates the closed session terms of confidential bargaining that we undergo as a committee. And so for that reason, I would like to hear from our labor attorney, Dr. Hall, how this motion was even put on the agenda.
Ms. Doherty, if Dr. Hall, before you begin, if I could just maybe interrupt you for this one. I believe this is going to be a long discussion, which is deserve a lengthy discussion on this. Just a couple items I need to get out of the way because there's one vote on a gift that I'd like the presenter of the gift is here tonight. So I'd like to take that out of order first, and then before we take on this motion 6.1, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Okay. But I think we can get the minutes out of the way first as well. Any comments or questions on the minutes since I started that path already? Hearing none, need a motion to approve the special meeting minutes of the Lowell School Committee of June 8, 2023, and to place them on file by Mr. Lay, second by Ms. Martin. On favor say aye, opposed say no. The ayes have it. Motion is carried. If I could get a motion to take item number, I believe it's 8.2, out of order by Ms. Thompson, second by Mr. Rossi. 8.2 is a vote to accept a donation of $4,900 from William and Christine Florence. Madam Secretary, please call we have a registered speaker on this one?
Yes, we have William and Christine Florence.
Okay.
Can I?
Mayor Chow, School Committee, and School Department, thank you for having us here tonight. My name is Christine Florence. I live at 70 Alcott Street in Lowell. And this is my husband, Bill. We're lifelong residents of Lowell, Mass., and he's also a Lowell school teacher, retired, sort of. And this is my daughter, Maggie O'Rourke. She's a registered nurse at Mass General Hospital, and I'd like to have her just explain to you about this device before we get started.
Hi, everyone. My name's Maggie. Like my mom said, I'm a registered nurse at Mass General Hospital. I've been in the ICU for the past several years. So I originally heard about the LifeVac device. It's an anti-choking device from a couple of coworkers. I have an almost 2-year-old daughter. So about a year ago or so when she started eating, we were just talking about how scary it is when little kids are eating. And they mentioned the LifeVac device. So I bought it. And then as a gift, I gave one to my parents, which happened to be on Christmas. And never did I think that my mom would have to use it on my dad the very next day. And it actually, it 100% saved his life. But before we talk about that, I just want to go over exactly how it works. So it's similar to a plunger. The device itself comes with 2 different masks, an adult mask and a pediatric mask. And it's pretty simple. You just push it right in, and it works exactly like a plunger. You place it, you push it, and it should suction out whatever is lodged in the airway. The nice thing about this, the patent on this is it's a one-way valve, so you cannot push air into the mouth, like pushing it down any further. I think that's. And we were contacted the LifeVac itself and told them what happened, and they've been very, very generous with us, and we've been able to donate several of them to the city of Lowell.
So I'd just like to tell you briefly what happened so that you understand how important it is. We got the device on Christmas Day. Christmas Eve, my husband and I sat down for a relaxing TV show and some leftovers, and we were not sitting at the table, but in a soft chair. And I looked over, and Bill could not speak. I knew something was wrong, and if you know anything about choking, that's the classic sign. He could not say anything. And by the time he made it to the kitchen, he passed out and fell to the floor. He was immediately unconscious, and I could tell by his color that he was not breathing. I'm also a healthcare professional, but at that time, it was bedlam. So I tried CPR. I tried to clear it with the Heimlich maneuver and the abdominal thrusts. I called 911. Thank God for the person on the phone with me from Lowell. But nothing was working. So somehow the angel on my shoulder, I remembered the device that was literally still under the tree. I went and I got it. I honestly did not pay much attention to it the day before because I was making dinner for everyone. It was a busy day. And I took it out, I figured it out, I put it on, I used it once, and it didn't work. I used it a second time, and the food came up into the device. And within a very short period of time, he took a breath. So it was really a miracle. So you can imagine the panic that was going on in my home at that time, and I just want to thank everyone in the city, the police and the fire, and the lovely woman that was on the phone with me. I was hysterical. The paramedics, the EMTs, they were all great, Lowell General. And thank you to my daughter who really helped us by buying it. And also, I do want to mention my daughter-in-law, who's also a nurse, who came rushing down from her house, and I was never so glad to see her. She was there firsthand. So when this was all over, Maggie really took the ball, and she called the company, and for every order that was placed with the code FLO, F-L-O for Florence, we received a free device. So we have since then donated 2 devices to every school in the city, and at least 2, and then we gave 50 to this city last month. And I want to thank a couple of people like Beth Moffett, my friend and colleague, who just took the ball and ran with it, along with Lisa Golden, DeRoth, Jim Hall, and if I missed anybody, I'm sorry, but they were just great. And I'm so happy that this, which could have been a very terrible experience, turned into such a great event. Thank you. And I think Bill just wants to say something.
Mayor Chow, Dr. Hall, school committee members, thanks very much for letting us take this meeting out of order. We do appreciate that. The reason why I'm here is my wife and Maggie, they wanted to demonstrate, I'm actually living proof, okay, that the LifeBack does work. Without it, in all seriousness, I would have been dead. I am a retired teacher in Lowell. But after COVID, I have come back on helping out at the Butler and also currently at the Riley Middle School. And I'm very, very, proud and happy. Something that could have been, catastrophic has turned out to be a real positive event. That again, every school in Lowell has at least 2 of these devices, okay? Public, private, and the charter schools. The police department, fire department, they've all been, donated some, and I think that they're also looking to make sure that they have them in their, vehicles and fire trucks. I also want to publicly thank Chrissy, Maggie, my guardian angels, along with God, because again, I was gone for over 5 minutes. And without this device, I wouldn't be here. With that being said, and I know I'm probably not making the right move here, but I am surrounded here by a bunch of outstanding people. And I want to ask that when this contract comes up, that the work that the paraprofessionals do, the cafeteria workers do, I see it every day. And they are just outstanding people and great contributors, as the teachers are, to the kids of the city of Lowell. So I do ask for your support for all of the LTA. Thank you very much.
Any comments or questions from any of the members on the donation in the amount of $4,900? Mr. Rossi?
I just wanted to say thank you so much for allowing and assuring that these devices are in our schools, because anything can happen in any moment. My half-sister recently had to perform the Heimlich maneuver on somebody in a restaurant, and they went into cardiac arrest and they lost them. And I know how traumatizing that has been for her to process all of that. So it's really helps and saves, and you never know what could happen with a lot of our kids in our district with underlying conditions. So just thank you from my bottom of my heart.
Any other comments, Mr. Lay?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maggie, just in case people at home wondering what this device is called, can you just say again what it is called?
So it's called the LifeVac device. If you just Google LifeVac, it'll go right to their website. And we still have a code. We're no longer being matched with donations because I think we blew them out of the water when they found out how many we were getting. But you can still get 10% off and free shipping with the code FLO.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Thompson?
I just want to say thank you. This is an amazing device. I saw when you were speaking about it at City Council and was jealous and hoping that the schools had it. So very excited that all the schools do have too. Such an important thing because, again, as Ms. Del Rossi said, you just never know. And so now that we have this extra added cushion, I really just want to say I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I too want to thank all three of you, the family, for coming to make the presentation and the donation. The City of Lowell, thank you, and appreciate all your hard work. Thank you. Need a motion to accept the donation by Mr. Rossi, second by Ms. Thompson. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Mia Chow?
Yes.
Ms. Chun?
Yes.
7 yeas.
Before we take on Ms. Doherty's request, I do have one more item that I normally do this in the beginning of the meeting. That is on the memorials. 5.1, Francisco P. Rocha and Marie Valentina Rocha, parents of Family Resource Center Administrative Assistants, Lena Faria. If you can dim the light for a moment of silence, please. There was a motion by Ms. Doherty earlier to take motion 6.1 out of order, second by Ms. Martin.
My motion was not to take it out of order. I said the motion itself is out of order.
Are you taking a personal point, a privilege to make that statement, or you want to
Yes,
discuss this?
I don't
order?
think I need to take a personal point of privilege to say that a motion is out of order. It clearly violates executive session, as well as the whole.
If you're neither taking a personal point of privilege or you're making a motion to take out order, you would have to wait until we get to that point. We're right now at the permission to enter. If you want to wait, it's one item below that. That'll be okay?
Certainly.
Right. We now going what's on the agenda, the section 4, permission to enter, June 21st, 2023. Any comments or questions on this item by any member? Hearing none, need a motion to approve the permission to enter by Ms. Mon, second by Ms. Thompson. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Rossi? Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Lay? Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Mia Chow?
Yes.
Ms. Chun? 7 yeas.
We are now at the motion section 6.1. It's a motion by Mr. Rossi to request the committee to vote to approve and ratify the enclosed contract proposal of the UTL for teachers, paraprofessionals, cafeteria employees, and building services employees. Do we have a second on this motion? Second by Ms. Chun. Mr. Rossi, would you like to go first, or would you like the registered speaker to go first?
The registered speakers can go first.
Madam Secretary, would you please call the registered speaker?
Point of order, Your Honor.
Ms. Doyle?
This is an unlawful motion, and I'm requesting to discuss the reasons why it is unlawful. We had executive session minutes that had not been approved to be released, and I have requested that we hear from our labor attorney how it ended up on the agenda. I just wanted to be duly noted in the minutes that I have asked for this recognition, and you continue to move forward with an unlawful motion.
No, I ask you if you want to take it out of order.
I said it was
ritually, or you
out
take it
of
first
order,
on
not
privilege,
take it out of order. It's
and
unlawful.
It's on the agenda. How could it be unlawful? It's on the agenda.
Excuse me, it was 6 months ago that you had a motion that was completely lawful, that had two signatures, two sponsors on it, that was removed from the agenda. You can have a motion that is out of order that should not be on the agenda because it is illegal.
I did
It's
seek
breaking the law.
I did seek the solicitor opinion on both back on that motion.
You got the
solicitor. So if we can go through the process of the protocol of meeting, Ms. Doherty, I will ask the maker of the motion, Mr. Rossi, would you mind if Ms. Doherty speak first before the registered speaker?
Sure.
Okay.
I would like Dr. Hall to explain how this motion is lawfully on the agenda. He is our labor attorney.
Dr. Hall?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to recognize it's the last day of school, and I know some people can have different sides of an opinion on this, but I just wanted to thank everyone here for getting us through the school year and all of your work, given this is the last day of school. So with that being said, I certainly will acknowledge this is a unusual situation, one that we historically haven't got here in the past. And because of the nature of this, I did speak to several city officials last week, which I'll go over, and going over some of the facts which I relayed. From my understanding, nothing that actually happened in executive session is being relayed tonight, which I think is very important. On May 2nd, there was an executive session. And then on June 1st, the UTL's proposal, which is before you today, was apparently dated that day, and apparently the UTL published it to its 2,000 members between June 1st and June 5th. I don't know those dates exactly. However, it's my understanding there was a ratification vote on the 5th, after which Mr. Georges relayed the proposal to me, stating that it was ratified. I then notified each committee member individually that the UTL ratified its proposal and didn't want to make any further changes. And then my understanding is that it was later discussed on the radio by Mr. Georges. In addition, he sent out several notifications to his members explaining what was in the proposal. I bring that up because I believe that the document doesn't have a cloak of confidentiality because of those actions, and also because it is dated June 1st. Historically as well, and noting that this is unusual, we have had bargaining rules which have required everything to be confidential. However, my understanding is that the AFT didn't support bargaining rules being signed, so the UTL didn't sign bargaining rules, which would have mandated confidentiality. So I was asked by city officials if there were bargaining rules, which I understood that the city officials would believe that this couldn't happen if there were bargaining rules. I relayed the fact that there were no bargaining rules because the UTL had refused to sign the bargaining rules that we traditionally sign this time. Those rules have been signed, I believe, for the last 16 to 18 years, with only one sentence being changed, but it's very important to note there are no bargaining rules binding the parties to that. I will state that historically and within the state, it's very favored that bargaining occur confidentially or in executive session, and generally only when you reach mediation do the proposals become public. But also it's important to note in this situation there were no bargaining rules binding the parties, and the UTL or Mr. Georges chose to publish the proposal, and it became, in my opinion, functionally public at that point. I did also call the city solicitor on Friday to discuss this, to see if the motion needed to be stopped. I was hesitant, and it was brought up earlier, but I didn't believe that we had the power to stop the motion, given feedback that we had received. Additionally, it was ratified as well, and that there were no bargaining rules. The solicitor stressed, or thought the most important thing that was that there were no bargaining rules, so he didn't instruct that it be pulled either. So in sum, I would like to note this is highly unusual, how it's got to this point, and I certainly can appreciate different members' arguments on why it should or should not be here, and there is historical precedence for both sides of this argument, but I don't believe that it's unlawfully before the committee at this point, although it's taken a route that's never historically happened.
Thank you for that explanation. I'd just like to make a couple of quick points. I think that if it was not a confidential negotiation, we were going to be doing it in public, then the school committee itself should have been informed. But all the negotiations that we were undergoing, those discussions, we started in executive session with the statement we always make about why we're going into executive session and that it would be confidential. So if it was a public negotiation, it was a one-sided public negotiation. The second point, and I'm just going to make three, the second point is I'm not here to be coerced into negotiating a contract without our full negotiation team. As you know, the city has a representative in addition to the mayor who is not present at this meeting, who was present at the executive session negotiations. So I think that is clearly unfair labor negotiations. I don't know if that would be the Department of Labor Relations who would take that up. And thirdly, I think that according to the rules that we're all supposed to be abiding under, the information about how people voted was released. I don't know who released that. The information about what happened under the confidentiality, that was also released. And I think that that would be a topic for the Attorney General to look into. I don't know what city officials assured you that this unusual circumstance was acceptable, but I don't think that it would stand the light of day according to the State Attorney General and the rules that we're all supposed to be following. It seems to me, in closing, that when there is a matter of that certain people want to move forward, they find ways to break the rules, to put it forward, or to remove it. And I have major objections to any discussion about this proposal or any vote about this proposal tonight when we do not have our full negotiating team.
Ms. Mon?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I just want to kind of make an added point. I think the discussion of the bargaining rules is one issue. And I think the discussion that the union had chose to share this information and called their own vote and you know, we're providing this information to various media outlets and whatnot. The union has every right to do that. The bargaining rules are what bind both the union and the school committee. So the union, without bargaining rules, has every right to do that. But I think the point that we need to be aware of is that executive session has absolutely nothing to do with bargaining rules. Executive session is a legal commitment that is made by every member of this committee when we take that oath on the day we are here at the beginning of our first session, where we say we're going to uphold the laws of the Commonwealth. Part of the laws of the Commonwealth are open meeting laws and executive session. So in addition to the actual information being released by someone who was in that room, there were 11 people in that room. I can say I did not release any information. I cannot say who did. But I can say this. In addition to releasing the package, they also released inaccurate information. So the idea of kind of sharing who voted how, you should have at least been honest about it. So I think that that's part of the problem in information coming out sideways when it's not part of the official record. As I look at the situation, I would agree, we do not have the full complement of people who are part of making this decision. And I think that the executive session rules that we are bound by have absolutely nothing to do with any kind of bargaining rules. They are created by the Commonwealth, and we are held accountable to maintain that confidentiality by our honor and by our commitment to taking on this role as school committee members. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions by any of the members? Hearing none, Mr. Lay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to speak on the motion itself. I'm not going to pretend I'm a lawyer or have a lawyer telling me about the legality of the motion, but I like the motion itself just because I feel that we are heading to the end of the year contract, and I like to have this extension done before the end of the contract. So this motion is about getting the lower pay end of the school employee to have a little bit better pay, and hopefully we can talk about that next year. That paraprofessionals they are grossly underpaid, and we need to bring their pay up. So this extension is only for 1 year, and I like to see it done, and I support this motion. Thank you.
Ms. Thompson?
So thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that I'm just really curious, again, having it be the first time I've had something like this take place, which it sounds like for most of the committees, this is the first time this has taken place. I just want to be assured that basically what the bounds are, because for me, it's important for me not to have any violation on my end of the contract that I signed as a school committee member. So I just want to be assured about what can be discussed based on the executive session laws that we are held to. I just want to make sure of that, and maybe that's something that my other colleagues don't know of or do know of, but I can say that I am not assured of that. So I just want to make sure, and I don't know if that's a Dr. Hall question, what bounds are we held to based on executive session itself?
100% you wouldn't be able to discuss anything that happened in executive session, who said what, who voted, whichever way. That's completely out of bounds. Until the issue is resolved, then the minutes would be released.
You all set, Ms. Thompson?
I mean, I guess that's a roundabout way. I guess, and I'm not sure if this is, a question that can be fully answered, but, what we are discussing is some of the stuff, and I know that the semantics of it all is that, it's not fully what we discussed, but a lot of it is, And so I'm trying to, in my mind, piecemeal, like where I could get in trouble. Do you understand what I'm saying? So for me, it's like, okay, this piece was not. I don't know if there's, for me, I'm going to speak for anybody else, clear definition of what was and what wasn't, because again, I have no problem speaking about the teachers and the paras and how much they deserve, because it's entirely clear how much they deserve. I think the reality of it is, what can I legally do without getting myself into trouble?
Right. I guess to further explain it, if the document wasn't public now, which I believe it legally is by the ratification and the actions that the UTL took, if it wasn't public, you wouldn't be able to discuss the proposal at all, I think, from the way the committee is supposed to proceed. And even though there weren't any bargaining rules, it would be heavily discouraged from talking about the UTL's proposal. And generally, the legal treatises on this say that you don't want to speak publicly because it causes negotiations to break down. Because once you take a public stance, it's very hard to change. So all the manuals and legal recommendations for government entities, they don't publicly discuss it. However, it is public now, but I would still say you can't talk in executive session about what any other member did, what their position was, how they voted, but the document itself, functionally and legally, in my opinion, is public. The UTL's ratified it. They've stated they're not changing it, and they published it to news media and to at least 2,000 members.
Are you all set, Ms. Thompson? Okay. Ms. Chun?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you all the teachers at administrations and all the staff that works at LPS. I commend you for all the hard work that you've done for our children, and round of applause to all of you guys. And again, thank you for clarifying some of the legality with this, Dr. Hall. I don't see any reason why we do not support this, because one, our staff are underpaid, and especially our paraprofessionals, our kitchen staff, and our custodians. When I ran my campaign, I stand with our students, our parents, our teachers, and our staff, and I will stand firm in what I believe in, and I will continue to support that. And with that said, we talk about SEL with our students, but what about the staff and the teachers and our custodians and everyone else that keep our students and our school moving? I often don't say a lot, but this is passion. This is the reason why all of you guys are here, not because of your pay, but because the passion that you provide and you prove to our cities and our children. It takes a city, it takes a community to ensure that our students and our children and our families are being well taken care of. And I commend all of you again. Thank you.
I think all the members have had a chance to speak except for the maker of the motion, but I've given you that option in the beginning. Would you want the registered speaker to go first, or you want to speak before the speaker?
Could I go first now, just to clarify my reasons for this
Mr.
vote?
Rossi, please.
I do have a child that attends Lowell Public Schools, a high-needs child that attends Lowell Public Schools, and I fully recognize all of what you all do and have had a part of his life. And honestly, I know that when we go back to school, that we need staff, we need everything to be all set for everybody, as my colleague Ms. Chund said, for their own social, emotional well-being, and to know that they will be okay going forth, because if our staff's not okay, our students not going to be okay. And I've spoken to that several times. I also want to make it clear that when I made this motion, nothing was confidential when it had to do with the ratification of this. And I would also like to make it clear that I did not break any executive session rules at the same time. So thank you.
Madam Secretary, please call the registered speakers.
Paul Georges.
From what's been said, Paul Georges, President UTL. From what's been said, I think I'm going to have a little different tact about what I'm going to talk about. I have a timeline of exactly what happened when it came to ratification, giving teachers and paras and CAF workers an explanation. I mean, I've got the dates, they're almost buried in my brain, but it ended up on May 31st was the day we sent out all that information. We had a Google Doc at the end, which is not something I'm really knowledgeable about, but it did allow people from different groups to be able to know exactly what was being offered or what we were arguing for. This was a proposal by the UTL, by us, to the school committee. It wasn't a matter of a lot of exchanges or any of that kind of thing at all. It was what we thought was fair and reasonable. What we understood was a kind of injustice, an economic injustice that has grown over the years as disparity and parity has diminished between what teachers make and what everyone else makes in the school system. Now, administrators exception because they do make more than we all do. However, but the proposal was here to look to it, try to make it fairer, and also in a time when you look at the cost of this, which is relatively modest, it allowed our people who have made the least amount of money over the years an opportunity to catch up in one quick move. They're not going to catch up all the way, but it will improve their status of life. When you've got 8 to 9% cost of living increases, if you're a teacher making $85,000 or $90,000, to a certain degree you have the capacity to absorb the cost of living a hell of a lot better than someone making $25,000 or $30,000 in the system. So we looked at that, and I can tell you the teachers, I was very proud of the teachers because they were willing to do this because they know the invaluable work that paraprofessionals do, CAF workers do, custodians do. Our CAF workers kept people fed during the pandemic. The dates on this I can document, so there was no conflict. We had sent this out electronically to 1,700 members on the 31st of May. Okay? I can understand people making accusations about there being a violation of confidentiality and all the rest of it, but there wasn't. I did find out who voted in certain ways by asking people. I did that. I emailed, or I sent emailed, or I made a phone call, or I sent a text message to every teacher, every school committee member asking if they would support this. Anybody who said they did, I informed my members. It's up to them whether or not they wanted to answer it. This is a move toward parity. It's a better principle of fairness. The idea that people who dedicate their lives in any capacity in a supportive condition of work is recognized for that contribution. Now, I've heard many of you school committee members right here agreeing. I mean, Susie, you brought the crowd down, I'm telling you. I mean, I think the principle of fairness should be the overriding issue here, whether or not this gets ratified by this school committee tonight. We need 5 votes. 5 votes. 5 votes. We thought we did it the first time there was a vote taken, and we found out afterwards that 4 wasn't adequate, even though there were 4 votes in favor and 3 votes against, or 3 votes against. I guess when you have majority, it doesn't rule all the time. If you're in type E government and there's essentially 8 people available to vote, so you need 5 in the affirmative. I'm asking the people that wax poetic tonight about appreciating our teachers and paraprofessionals and CAF workers and everyone else. Take the vote. Move the vote to yes. Get it over with so these people don't. And I applaud school committee member Del Rossi for having the guts and knowing she would end up being attacked in some ways. So when all is said and done, I would ask someone to put the motion, call for after the other speakers. I want to be respectful of them because many of them took time to put this together for themselves on what they want to say, and hear what they have to say. Someone make the motion and pass the darn thing so these people can relax this summer and actually enjoy their summer, and I don't have to prepare for whatever alternative we may find ourselves needing to do in the fall. Thank you very much.
Pino Maggio.
My name is Pina Maggio, and I'm the Executive Vice President of the UTL. There's an irony here that most of you probably have no idea. My entire presentation, ladies and gentlemen, is based upon the fact that we, the school committee, all these wonderful members of the UTL, are making history here tonight. And over and over and over again, I heard the word historical. Well, we already are making history. And let me explain why and how. We, the UTL, voted on a proposal that had not been approved by the school committee. And it's my understanding this has never been done before. We made history in doing that. Each of the units, independent of one another, voted unanimously to approve this proposal. That is indeed historic. We were privileged to have our fearless leader prepare a video explaining the proposal, and I myself would consider that a historical event, because I never thought I'd see that. So the question now, I'm sure you have, is what is it about this proposal that makes it historical? It puts the spotlight on those UTL members who are undervalued and underpaid. And I want to repeat that. Undervalued and underpaid, to be sure. And who may those individuals be? Our paraprofessionals, our custodians, our security guards, and our cafeteria workers. Undervalued? Absolutely. They represent the backbone of our educational system. We couldn't exist without them. We see them each and every day. We take them for granted. They are so much part of the fabric that they almost become invisible, blending in with the scenery. Underpaid? Absolutely. Let me just take you through a day in the life of a para. Hustling from classroom to classroom, 11:30 one classroom, 11:32 another one, right? Lunch duty, recess duty, bus duty, subbing for a teacher without the benefit of a sub-pay. Often working one-to-one, one with a small group. Here is your lesson. No professional development. Figure it out, right? Often without notice being pulled out of a classroom. And, ladies and gentlemen, they do all this for the glorious sum of perhaps $25,000 a year. Underpaid, to be sure. What is the proposal asking? I'm not going to go into the details, but it's asking, when we're done, an individual making $25,000 with that base of $2,500 added on is making perhaps a 10% increase in salary. Now, you may be thinking, whoa, that's pretty damn good, 10%, right? Other unions are getting like 3%. Well, when you're making $25,000 and now you're making $27,500, I don't see that is really a big deal. But it is a step in the right direction, right? Now, the same theory, the same thinking applies to our custodians, our security guards, and our cafeteria workers. They are all significantly underpaid and underappreciated. Now, I'm going to digress here for a minute, and I'm going to share with you a conversation I had with Jim Hall last week. I went to him on the topic of retirement, not specific to anybody, but topic of retirement. And Jim made a comment to me. He said, Pina, at your age, and I want to make note here that I am not a baby boomer, I am the silent generation, which is older than the baby boomers. And this gentleman says to me, at your age, you should be retired and enjoying life, right? And then further, because the attorney in Jim is always there, he cites a case of an individual in the family who retired and wish he had retired sooner. So here I am, the silent generation, at my age, thinking, how does this young man, because from where I'm sitting, anyone under 60 is young, right? How does this young man, I'm not enjoying my life, right? I have no idea. Excuse me for a moment. Okay. So, my thought...
Miss Maggio, I'm going to take the interruption just to let you know that your 5 minutes up. If you could wrap it up, please.
Okay, I'll make it real fast. All right. This is my shoe, size 7. I wanted to say to Jim Hall, walk in my shoes. What I want to say to the school committee, if you don't for a moment believe what we're telling you about the staff, then I ask you to walk in their shoes, right? Just 2 minutes. We want to make history here tonight. We want this proposal to be accepted. One small step for man, one huge leap for mankind, Neil Armstrong, and I actually did see that on TV, right? This is a small step for paras, security guards, custodians, cafeteria workers. It's a huge step for Lowell. Let's make it happen.
Michael Cooney.
Hello, I'm Michael Cooney. I work at the Maury School. Dear Lowell School community members, Zachary, Susie, Eileen, Jackie, Dominic, Connie, and Stacy. First, I want to thank you for representing the students of Lowell Public Schools in the entire school department. I know it's not an easy job. Yes, no, you have a hard job, and we appreciate all the work you do. We may not agree on everything, but you're here to do a job, and we appreciate that. I came to Lowell Public Schools in 1995. I was working in a private school in Lexington, making good money. The school relocated to Randolph, hell of a commute. After a year, I had to give up. My wife's from Lowell High School graduate, grew up down the street in Dummer Street. Her friend told me to apply in Lowell for a teaching job. I'm like, I'm from Brockton, I don't want to work in Lowell. But Lowell's a great place. I've come to love it. So I applied for a job. Dr. Helen Flanagan offered me a job. She told me the starting salary back then. I was kind of shocked how underpaid it would have been for a teacher with 5 years experience. Starting at step 5, I had to work every day after school as a tutor, work weekends as a bartender, and work every summer just to make ends meet for my family. But I did take the job, and I'm glad I did. The first few years was very difficult for me, transitioning to a public school setting, and the para in my room named Carol mentored me, tutored me, taught me, molded me. The para molded me into the teacher I am today. Without her guiding me, I wouldn't be where I am today. And her name is Carol, and I do appreciate everything she did for me, because without her, I wouldn't be here today. And again, I saw her paycheck one day, and I was kind of even shocked by what she was getting paid. Meanwhile, she was teaching me to be a better teacher. I had the degree, she had the know-how and knowledge to turn me into what I am today. So I appreciate her and all the paras that are here. I came to love my job. I love my job so much, I would do it without pay. Don't tell anyone else that, but I love my job. I love the children of Lowell. I go to work every day with a smile on my face. I wear different ties, a hat, shoes, whatever it takes to get into these children to do better, I'm in. I've been a mentor for 15 years of new teachers. I like to share my knowledge with them, just as my parents shared with me. I also am a teacher practitioner at UMass Lowell. New student teachers come into my room every year. I encourage them when they graduate to apply in Lowell. Some do. Many choose other cities that may have a higher pay or better salary scale. And that's unfortunately because the college loans, car payments, housing costs continue to rise faster than any starting salary, than the starting salaries have over the years. As Paul said, inflation is going up 8, 9, 10%. Student loans are outrageous right now. These poor children coming out of college have to deal with all the extra pay, so they're trying to find the highest paid job possible. So they'll turn down a job in Lowell to work in a community that has better pay. As paraprofessionals, custodians, and cafeteria workers go, I witness the hard work every day, all day, but especially during the pandemic. I need to teach from the school. I went to school every day during the pandemic to teach from my classroom. And I work side by side with them. Every day, the cafeteria workers are there serving lunches to hundreds of people coming in just to get a meal during the pandemic. They were sweating, they were working really hard, hundreds of them just bagging lunches and pushing them out. And I was out there every day helping them. But I wasn't getting paid what they were getting paid. But they still worked really hard and had a smile on their face. I really appreciate all the hard work they did during that time. And as custodians, we had one custodian in the school at that time. I was outside helping him, landscaping, mowing, doing it because I'm doing what's right for the children of Lowell. They deserve to come to a school that looks nice and also has great teachers in them. I have to admit that there are fantastic things about Lowell. Once you're in Lowell Public Schools, you have an opportunity to learn and grow. I love seeing paraprofessionals go back to school because of tuition reimbursement through the UTL in the school, and they become teachers, first paras, and then they were teachers, and become teachers and move on. Unfortunately, some of them move on to a different school system at that point because they had better pay. But those paraprofessionals who work their way up through it are the best teachers we have right now. They know everything inside and out and how hard it is to become a teacher in Lowell. I encourage you, all of you, to support this proposed contract, in large part to get the best and most qualified teachers, paraprofessionals, and staff Lowell School Department can get to keep them here long-term for as long as possible. There is a lot to love about Lowell. Lowell Public Schools is one of them. Let's keep it a great place for children to come learn and play, people to work, and families to visit. Thank you.
Deb Conway.
Good evening, our elected officials. My name is Laura Jean Conway. I am a cook at the Merklin School. I am speaking on behalf of myself and many of my co-workers that are here tonight in the food service industry. We are the lowest paid in the school department, and it's very hard for us to make ends meet with our pay and our high cost of living. For many of us, that means taking on a second job. As I previously stated, I am the head cook. And I look around this room, and a lot of you guys I've seen within the past week. At my second job, I was being the bartender at the Knickerbocker Club for different kind of events that many of you guys have attended to. With that being said, every day is a challenge for us, from dealing with so many different issues, for example, equipment failures, working short-staffed, having to step up even more than normal, food shortages, item shortages that we need to be able to serve on our menu. We do everything we can by giving up our breaks, running around to make sure the children get their breakfast and their lunch on time. As many of my coworkers are registered voters in Lowell, we have supported all of you in the voting process. As for myself, I'm a former resident of Lowell, and I take pride in that. I live on the main street that runs right into the Lowell, so I've shown my support by placing signs out in front of my front lawn so people can get more publicity. There's a great satisfaction serving the children of Lowell. Many times they've come to us with thank you cards and let us know how much they appreciate us. We are hoping that same comes from all of you. Just please show us the support and appreciation to all of our food services, our custodians, our teachers, our paras, our security guards. Give us the appreciation that we get from our children. We're asking from the adults in this room. Please support us. And one last thing. Thank you very much for your time, but sorry I have to leave because I have to go to my second job. Have a great night.
Rose Bergeron.
I am reading this for Kelly Ash, who could not make it tonight. She's supporting all of us as paraprofessionals. She's been working for the district for 4 years, and she's an active member of the UTL. I've been working for the district for 27 years, just about, and an active member of the UTL. I am also an advocate of the paras that work not only in the buildings, but all across the district. Paras who are your neighbors, paras who vote in the, this is blurry, I'm sorry, who are paras who vote in the district, in the elections. Paras also live in the city and make better lives for themselves, their families, as well as the families that provide education. Paras who are new to teaching, paras who have been doing this for many years, paras who deserve to make a living wage for the difference that they make every day in this profession. The cost of living has increased tremendously. House prices are at the all-time high in this city. The cost of food is also higher than it has been for many years. Many families in our community are struggling. Many families who have a parent that work as a para for Lowell Public Schools. Our paraprofessionals are usually the first person that a child encounters when arriving at school, coming off to the school bus or walking into the classroom. Paraprofessionals are the people who help with struggling students. We are the moms or the dads of the classroom. We help with the injuries, the illness, the social emotional issues. We talk students down when they need help and pump students up when they need encouragement. Paraprofessionals are the right hand of the teachers that they work with. Many teachers have stated that they would not be able to do their jobs effectively without the assistance of their paraprofessionals. Many of the paras in the district have come from other countries where they were teachers, but their degree does not transfer over. Many of our paras are students in schools to become teachers. Many are single parents. Many are working to supplement their income because families need 2 or more incomes to be able to meet basic needs. These are all the reasons why the new contract should have a vote in favor of the hardworking people who help to keep our schools running smoothly. What are the reasons why this contract would not be voted in favor? Thank you for your time and consideration.
That concludes the speakers.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Before I open the floor to the members, again, let me just thank all the speakers here tonight and thank everyone for coming to the meeting to show your support for one way or the other. Tonight, just to recap a little bit, the concerns here by my colleagues about the bargaining rules, the executive sessions legality of it, whether one member of the negotiating team is present or not. And I think these are things that we have discussed so far, and the documents have been made public. There's no violations of confidentiality, but I think one thing that we probably need to discuss a little bit is the financing of this contract. With that, through Dr. Hall, who is sitting in for the superintendent, I'm going to ask the CFO, Ms. Billie Jo Turner, could you explain to us as well as to the public how this is financed? Is this money in the budget to have the raises, and what is the long-term goal for this as well?
We did put a placeholder in the budget for negotiations. We did know that one way or the other, we were going to have to do a raise. So we do have the money in the budget. Is that what you meant, just whether or not we have it?
Do you have the money to finance this, and how are we going to sustain it in the long run?
So we did put a placeholder in the budget for the unknown amount that would be agreed upon. As far as sustainability, we do have the Student Opportunity Act that is going to increase the budget by 1/7 for the next 4 or 5 years. And then after that, I'm not sure what happens after that as far as they have, we do an annual raise. It's called an inflationary raise that DESE does give. But that is how we would afford it for the next 4 or 5 years through the Student Opportunity Act increase.
Just one more question to follow up on that. This is something that is an annual increase anyway, but we have to agree to the contract to it. So whether we agree to the contract presently, meaning tonight, or a year from now, does that make any difference in terms of money saving? Are we saving money by doing it now, or wait a year later, or a few months later? What is your analysis on that?
Whether we agree to it now or whether we wait several months and then agree to it and have to pay retroactive, we'll still end up paying whatever the agreed upon rate would be. So it does not save us, or it doesn't save us money by starting now or waiting. It does, you're still going to have the same net effect because we have to agree upon it and move forward. But as stated, we did not know the amount that was going to be agreed upon, so we had an estimate. Whether, like affordability, I would say that we can afford anything that we agree upon, because we'd make sure that we make other decisions. If we had to adjust in other areas, we would do so. But we definitely have it in the budget. We did plan for these negotiations. Did you say how much? Oh.
If you just have one more question before I call
I thought I couldn't say that. So, all right. Well, we have several $1 million in the budget we actually have enough to cover the step increases plus this proposal. So we do have the amount. How much in the budget? $11 million that would cover both. So it would cover both. I didn't know that I could say that stuff out here. But, all right.
Okay. Ms. Turner, in terms of the expected budget that we were expected to negotiate in terms of this proposed contract, was there any savings with this?
Just to clarify, I'm allowed to say this stuff, right? Am I allowed to say this?
Through Dr. Hall?
Following the rules.
Oh, okay. So then if I'm allowed to speak, then I will tell you that this proposal actually is more affordable than what my alternative options, what I had projected. So yes, even if I projected all employees, which we don't know if all employees would get it, because if you look at the budget, my FTE column includes people like tutors and part-timers. If we iron this out and they're not going to get a $2,500 bump, let's say, even if we did every employee at 2,300 employees multiplied by the 2,500, then it's approximately 5.8 million. And then if we added the 2% mid-year, that's 1.5. So that's approximately 7.3 million. And as stated, I actually had the step increases plus that estimate, and so I feel like it's more affordable. You told me to do it. I did it.
I know that all the members have had an opportunity to speak on this before, but I think it's worthwhile to open the floor to the members again because there were some moving speeches by the speakers and again with some new information from the CFO. So this is a very worthwhile process to make it transparent, to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So I'm going to open the floor to the members one more time. Does anybody have questions or comments? Anyone else before I ask for a roll call for a vote? Ms. Mon?
Thank you very much. I will join in saying thank you to everyone who came out tonight. Thank you for being here tonight and sharing your thoughts, but more importantly, thank you for the work that you do every day. I think it's important to note that as we have these conversations and we have our negotiations, we all bear different responsibilities in this. And I will tell you one that I take very, very seriously is the ability to come to an agreement that can be sustained over time. For those of you, and I know there are a lot of you who've been here in the district for a long time, and I'm sure there are those who remember Ed Reform. Ed Reform was landmark legislation, changed the way, education was funded in the state, and resulted in about 10 years of ever-increasing budgets, that there was an absolute commitment from the state, and the city of Lowell certainly benefited from that. We made huge increases in the salaries we were able to pay, and across the board at every level. But like all things like that, it ends. And there will come a time, I know that we are saying that student opportunity is going to be funding and increasing our amount. I think even as the CFO is saying, we're looking at 4 or 5 years. We don't know what happens after that. Personally, I think that it could be less than that. I think we could be looking at 2 or 3 years before we start seeing things starting to tighten up again. So as I look at the long term, and as I went through this negotiation process, I'll be very honest about what I wanted. I wanted to have something in exchange that would allow us to put these raises in place, but then know that we had an additional savings that could fund that. I will say that for myself, I am only speaking for myself, and I am considering this an open negotiation at this point. It's because I'm looking at everybody. That for me, it was trying to cap sick leave. It was trying to cap sick leave buyback. That if we could get that in place as a savings that we could count on, not eliminating it. I know you don't want it. I'm just trying to, I'm sorry. I was just going to try to.
If I could ask the public and chamber,
Do I get a chance to do that?
the elected official, the respect as we have shown all of you when you speak. Thank you. Ms. Mon?
Thank you very much. So that was my thought process in all this, was that I was trying to find something in this bargain that would allow us to afford this going forward. I have been in the position of laying off teachers. I have been in the position of laying off teachers by the dozen, and it is a heartbreaking process. And it is something that I would want to avoid at any cost, because it is devastating. It's devastating to the individuals. It is devastating to the system. And anything I can do to put in place a safeguard so that we would not be put in that position again, quite honestly, I'm going to try and do it. So that was the sticking point for me, that as we were going through this process, the recognition of paras and cafeteria workers, custodians, security guards, I absolutely recognize that. I have supported other grade raises for those positions, and will continue to do so. But again, looking for the balance that over time we'd be able to maintain all of the positions we need in our schools, trying to be as thoughtful and as conservative, I guess, as I can be, to ensure that we're spending our dollars wisely, and that over time we wouldn't be placed in a position where we really would have to destroy what we've built. Thank you.
Any other members who would like to speak? Ms. Thompson?
I would just like to say, since we are now in open negotiations, I would also like to just be very clear that we were informed not to reach out to you, Mr. Georges. So it wasn't that we, or me, Stacy, didn't want to talk to you or support anything, but we were told by legal counsel that typically there's not a response. So I just wanted that to be really clear, that the reason why you may have not heard from Stacy Thompson was for that reason. Okay, so I want that to be really clear, because there's a lot of narratives that are being spun, and I think it's important to understand what a person has done, and the totality of how someone has voted in their entirety and the support that they have given. My mom was a teacher for 45 years. I was a teacher for 11. I clearly understand in the system the underpaid nature of the amazing work of the paras. I have close friends that are paras in Lowell Public Schools, so I understand this. I have these conversations. But at the same time, it's really important for people to understand that me, as Stacy, I'm trying to follow the rules and the protocol that I've been given as a school committee member. So I want everybody to understand, I saw the sea of red, I came in, I smiled, and I want you to understand that the support is there. It's important for you to know that the way that we can show it is really, unfortunately, sometimes limited, and it pits people against each other when our goal is to support you all. It is to support our students. When I made the pledge to run, it's because of equity, and equity is for you all as well as for the students. So I just wanted to make that really clear. Thank you.
Ms. Doherty?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to start by saying I believe that we are in violation of executive session, and that the fact that the issues have not been resolved, that we had a vote no and we will continue to negotiate, proves that. But since we are discussing and now negotiating in public, I'd like to give my take on where I come from. I completely support everybody who works in the school district, and I think if you've been paying attention to our meetings and what's been going on for the last many years, you would see that I have been an open and strong and strident advocate for our kids, our staff, and our families. When I ran first, it was after the city and the district had to make 100 positions, a cut of 100 positions. Many of those positions, science at the elementary level, library media aides, we didn't get those positions back. So I come from, as Ms. Martin mentions, when you have that historical perspective, you worry about the funding. You worry about it. I completely support parity and bringing those lower paid employees up. They're not making a livable wage. They're doing God's work every day, and they should be made whole. They should be increased. But if you look at the terms, the one-year terms that were presented to us, it was for every UTL member, even the ones that were getting step increases, even the ones that were making over 80 and 90,000. I don't see that as bringing parity. The gap still continues. And we had negotiations back and forth that you don't know about because it was in confidence. It was in executive session, the way it's supposed to happen. So you haven't got the whole picture about what was offered, what was rejected, what was brought back to us. And in closing, the last thing I want to say, I think that I feel somewhat coerced that we're in this kind of, I feel people are somewhat pandering because we've got an election coming up. And my whole responsibility, while the staff is very important and a key piece of responsibility in this role, my whole responsibility is to the families, the children of this city. And if you watched the city council meeting last night, you know that there's going to be increased costs coming for all of us who live in Lowell. It's going to be tax increases, there's going to be water and sewer increases, there's going to be parking increases, and we are a city, the average person makes what, 50,000? And most of them are renters who can't find decent places to live. I know, I live in an apartment. So you want to tell me that we need to bring parity, we need to make a livable wage for all our employees. I wholeheartedly agree. We also have a fiduciary responsibility. We are elected to do that, not just to look at increasing salaries for one group. And there are people I would say nobody goes into education to make a fortune, maybe administrators, but only at the very top. Nobody goes into it to make a lot of money. You go into it because you love kids and you want to make a difference. I get that.
The public
I taught
to
myself-
remain quiet, please.
So I'm going to close with that. I feel very strongly that this process has completely been derailed, that this historical moment has been, I think it'll go down as one of the low moments in the city, that this kind of coercion that's happening to us, these elected officials who are trying, and I believe that we are all trying our best to do the right thing. I think that my colleague, it's her first term. Maybe she didn't understand the weight of it, but Dr. Hall certainly should have known better. The mayor certainly should have known better. 6 months ago, a motion was pulled that he didn't like. That was a legitimate, lawful motion in reference to a letter that was addressed to all of us from the city solicitor, over 20 years of experience as our city solicitor. So this is not right. This is not right.
Okay, Ms. Doherty, I already addressed how we came to the conclusion with each motion already. Mr. Rossi?
Yes, I'd just like to clarify what Mr. Hall said in the beginning. This obviously went to City Council, or not City Council, but it went to city officials to be approved to put on this, as did that motion 6 months ago that was taken from the agenda, and it was decided by the solicitor at the time, and it was decided by the superintendent and the mayor, not just one person, to be put. It was never taken off the agenda. It was put into an executive session. And if this is what happened with this motion, then I would have accepted it and I would have respected that decision. And that's what I think that we may be missing here, just a little respect for people who are doing the checking and that are our city officials and that are working together and collaborating to make the best decision for the overall city. My second point is that I believe it's 20 to 30% of teachers work within this city, and over 50% of teachers, paraprofessionals, custodians, and cafeteria workers live in the city of Lowell, and their taxpayer dollars will be coming back into this city where there has been a 3.5% increase in tax rate. And the third point I want to make is that this is the first year also that they get that big bump. Is that correct? Through your honor to Ms. Turner, they get a bump this year to $2,500 that will be sustained and only then increases from there.
Ms. Turner?
I'm confused by your question. Are you asking if this is the first year that they'll get a $2,500 bump, and then will it be sustained? Yes, it's not a one-time thing. So their base would be built off of the $2,500 increase they get this year.
And not, right, so it's once.
It's a one, yes, it's not every year, but whatever, if something costs $100 now and we add $10 to it, next year it's going to continue to cost the $110. So it
Right.
is part of it. It's just not going to be $2,500 in addition to every year.
But this is the 1 year that they get the significant bump.
Yes.
And then it's only a step increase from there each year.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Before I explain how the vote works and how we're going to do it and do the roll call, I just want to make a brief statement from up here if there's no objection. I believe that every single elected person in this room and on our school committee as well as on the city council, we really do our best to make sure that we take care of the entire city, we take care of the school system. And each vote is difficult. I understand, I can hear the passion in every person's voice tonight. It's not easy, but what we're talking about here, we're talking about being fair, being equitable to the working class, to lift the floor, and that's important to us. I believe there are many reasons why each one of us decide to run for public office. We use the word to make a difference, but making a difference we can do in so many ways. And all I could cause is from the environment to clean streets, public safety, and so forth. But I think the primary at the top of the list is to have equity, is to bring equitability to every single person in our city. And that's what's going to determine the quality of life of everyone. If you have one person who's having a great life in the city and the rest of the folks are struggling to pay the bills, they're working 2-3 jobs just to pay the bills, they don't see the kids, they don't see the spouse, that's not equitable, and we owe it, it's our duty as elected official to really take care of the most vulnerable. And we talked tonight about different ways how to approach it. I do understand that we might disagree on the approaches, but all these things that we talk about, this is all within legality. It might not be the usual way that we do it, but it is within our authority to take on this motion, to take a vote. I would have to say, there's some punches out there about making this a campaign. I don't think many people here, maybe 1 or 2, talk about campaign. I don't think this is a campaign issue. This is a quality of life issue. This is an equity issue. With that said, I know as difficult it is for everyone here, we will take a vote on this motion. And from reading this motion, I understand that, first of all, we have to vote, we have to do a roll call to approve the motion by Ms. Del Rossi. And Dr. Hall, you can give us an opinion. After we vote on the motion to approve the motion, do we need to take a second vote to approve and ratify the contract proposal separately, or can this be done with one vote? Dr. Hall?
I think it'd be best to vote first on whether or not you're going to take the vote to ratify the contract proposal tonight, and then have a second vote if that passes to ratify the contract.
Yes, so I understand clearly that the first vote is to approve the motion by Mr. Rossi, and the second would be the motion to approve and ratify the contract proposal. Is that correct? So there'd be 2 votes to have clarity?
Yes, and some mayor. So one would be first whether or not to go forward with the vote to ratify, and if that passed, then there would be a vote to ratify the contract. So there'd be 2 separate votes.
Okay, wonderful. And I believe that we did have a motion by Mr. Rossi. Did we have a second on that, Madam Secretary? Ms. Chun, second that. We do have a second. So this is the vote to approve the motion. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Ms. Del Rossi? Yes. Ms. Doherty?
No.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
No.
Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Mia Chow?
Yes.
Ms. Chun?
Yes.
5 yeas, 2 nay.
So we now need a motion on the floor to approve and ratify the contract proposal for the UTL for teachers, paraprofessionals, cafeteria employees, and building service employees by Mr. Rossi, second by Mr. Lay. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Rossi? Ms. Doherty?
No.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Mia Chow?
Yes.
Ms. Chun?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 nay.
Motion is passed. Congratulations to the UTL and also to the school committee members for making this happen. We now will resume or continue on the agenda. We are still on the motion section. Motion 6.2 is a motion by Ms. Doherty. Request the superintendent provide the committee with an update on the current K through 8 physical education curriculum, including suggestions for. Okay, that sounds a good idea. I hear a lot of commotions in the background. Let's take a recess for 5 minutes.
Well, now we got OSA and the court. So like, in the future.
No, I'm put for Highlands. She's little. Yeah. Thank you.
Thinking when he said he was looking for equity and parity, I wanted to say, so you better expect the firefighters, the police officers,
Well, they're all
everyone
coming
who
for it.
works at City Hall is going to be expecting a
Well,
$2,500
they actually
base
try to do
increase
that.
and a 2%.
I got it. Yes. Ooh-wee.
We're now back from recess and returning to the meeting. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Rossi? Ms. Doherty?
Here.
Mr. Lay? Ms. Martin? Ms. Thompson?
Here.
Mia Chow?
Here.
Ms. Chun?
Here.
7 present.
Thank you for joining us again. We left off at the motion section of 6.2. It's a motion by Ms. Doherty, request the superintendent provide the committee with an update on the current K-8 physical education curriculum, including suggestions for incorporating more mental health supportive activities into gym classes, district-wide, such as yoga, meditation, and stretching. Second by Ms. Martin. Ms. Doherty.
Thank you, Your Honor. The motion pretty much speaks for itself. I just want my colleagues to know that this came out of the middle school, the student active citizen group, Generation Citizen, whatever it's called. So this was one of the groups that they had asked, and I just asked them to let me wait till after we got through the budget process and all that. I'm not seeing it as a huge amount of work. I just want to kind of honor their wishes to provide some options around activities that can help with mental health. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on these motions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye, opposed say no. The ayes have it, motion's carried. The next motion is 6.3, a motion by Ms. Martin, asking the committee to vote to request an update from BHPK regarding the ongoing investigation, including a list of LPS administrators and supervisors who are expected to be scheduled for interviews as part of the investigation. Second by Ms. Thompson. Ms. Martin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to put in a request to the attorneys who are conducting our investigation that we can get an update as soon as possible, just so we have a listing. Again, the investigation is ongoing. My understanding, based on the previous timeline, is that we should be looking at getting a final report in probably mid-July. But I was hoping to get an update from them just on the actual list of individuals that are part of the interviews that will be going on. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on this motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye, opposed say no. Mr. Lay, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. I think
hands sooner, Mr. Lay.
you move too fast, Mr. Mayor. I just don't feel comfortable doing this, requesting the BHBK on who's being interviewed and all of that, because they are doing their work. And I feel that we just want to let them do the thing, and I don't feel right that we interfere with what they're doing. Therefore, I cannot support this motion.
Any other comments or questions? Mr. Rossi?
So is this in response, like the lawyers would be interviewing administrators that are named in maybe complaints? Is that what this is in response to? And I just was wondering, in that case, would confidentiality be breached?
Dr. Hall, is that you have any comments on that? Is any confidentiality being breached, or from my understanding, this is part of their work anyway? Sooner or later, this is going to be provided in the report.
I believe the attorneys stated when they came that there'd be a discussion in regards to what exactly could be released in regards to personnel matters depending upon their findings. So I don't think that they've stated that the whole report necessarily will be released. It's quite possible it will be released, but I remember them stating that they'd have to address that at the end.
I'm sorry, so
there could be some redactions, I mean, at the end in regards to personnel records. So when they were here, they stated that there'd have to be a discussion or review on whether or not the whole report's going to be released or what parts could be.
Well, and I guess what I'm hoping to get from it is just a list of people who are going to be part of the fact finding. Like we wouldn't be asking for the name of, claimants or people who had presented to the attorneys with a concern or a case, but basically wanting to know who's going to be part of the interview process as part of the investigation itself. So I would think that would be, open, like that wouldn't be something that would be redacted, I wouldn't think.
I don't know if you'd consider putting in it that the attorneys, if they can provide it from their review, provide it, just to cover that.
So wordsmith that, add that to the motion. Whatever we need to put on it is fine with me.
Did you amend it? Okay. So
If possible, at the
Yes,
end?
that's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
So I would take I would change my motion to include at the end if possible. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Doherty?
Thank you. I just want to add, we're asking, this motion appears to be asking for an update, which I think it's been a while. I'd really like to get an update. And I think we specifically chose this law firm because of their experience with municipal law and these types of investigations. So I'm confident that they're not going to provide information that they would not be able to provide in a manner that would not be acceptable by law or confidentiality or personnel privacy or any of those things. That's what they do. So that's my thought on it. Thank you.
Ms. Chun?
It's just a question on, so if we're including the list of administrators and supervisors, will this affect the decision-making on hiring any interim or any kind of decision-making for the superintendent position?
Dr. Hall?
I don't know if I'm able to answer that because I don't know what the investigation's focused on or what they're looking at, and certainly who you all vote for is your own decision.
Any other questions? So my understanding is that we have one nay. Mr. Rossi, were you gonna a nay also? Or I guess I'm trying to skip the roll call and do a voice vote. If,
No, as long as it's changed to if possible, right?
possible.
So they'll make sure that the firm is experienced in doing this, so if possible.
Okay. I think that's okay.
Fine with that.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Opposed say nay. Aye. All the ayes have it. Motion is passed. Yes. Yes. It seems to my right that's really where the fun is, Ms. Thompson. That completes the motion of the evening. We now go to section 7, which are the reports of the superintendent. 7.1 is April monthly enrollment report through Dr. Hall.
Ms. Phillips?
So, Mr. Mayor, school committee members, we did, I did include 2 months of reports because the last meeting, it was not discussed, but I'm here to stand for any questions.
Any questions or comments on the April monthly enrollment report? For these reports, I'm going to go through the list, and if the department head could just give a brief summary unless specific questions are raised by the members, then we can go in detail. But if not, I'm going to ask the department head just to give a brief summary because these are provided on the agenda already. 7.2 is the May monthly incident report through Dr. Hall. Ms. Phillips.
I think the mayor, the report speaks for itself unless the members have questions.
You have a question?
I do.
Okay. Ms. Thompson?
So on this one, I have to say, so on page 2, 3, and 7 were my questions. Page 2, if I can get to it. That one is basically, I was curious about, there was one incident of hazing, and I'm wondering if that hazing incident was in regards to a team. So that's my first question, was the incident of hazing that was listed on page 2, was that in regards to a sports team, or was that something separate from that?
So, Mr. Mayor, School Committee, I would have to look into that to be able to answer that definitively.
Okay. The next one is on page 3, and it was just a note, and not so much a question, I guess, more of a note that all the numbers have gone up substantially. And that's concerning. I think the discrimination one is the one that kind of stayed the most level, but then again, that might have been absorbed in some other things. But page 7 really did stand out to me, because page 7 speaks to an issue that I don't think people know about, because I really didn't know about it, which is the incidents of aggressor, which are the staff on student. That was really concerning to me, and I'm not sure. So it said there were 5 reported incidents that staff was the aggressor to students, and the students were the target. So I'm just curious why the number has gone up so substantially. Were those in one school? Kind of more definitive information about what that is. And again, if you don't have it now, which I get, I do want to make a motion to have an equity subcommittee meeting so we can really dive into this, because those numbers are concerning for me.
Motion by Ms. Thompson, second by Mr. Rossi. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Motion's carried. Was it the report to the equity subcommittee? Yeah.
7.3?
7.2. 7.2. Any other questions or comments on 7.2? Hearing none, let's start with the subcommittee, with the committee members. 7.3 is the May enrollment report. Any comments or questions from the committee members?
Is this regarding the health program? I'm sorry.
7.3 May enrollment
May
report?
enrollment, no.
Yes, none. Okay, that will now move on to 7.4. These are the motion responses. 7.4 is the motion response to CFO of 2/15/23 by Ms. Doherty regarding health program and budget planning. Ms. Doherty.
Thank you, Your Honor, and I appreciate this update. I just want to clarify, because it's not written here in the update, that the motion was to get certified health teachers. So I know we had added 2 positions, and it's not in I believe the report came from you, right? Just to make sure that we are hiring certified health teachers for the 2 schools that are missing the health teachers. Right? Am I on the right report? Yes, okay. And so you're verifying that it is certified health teachers?
Yes, I'm saying that it would be posted on the compendium and go through the normal process of all the other teachers. We would modify the position to one that's not a certified teacher. It is, yes.
Yeah, there shouldn't be any health teachers who are not certified
Right,
health teachers.
exactly.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to clarify that.
No other comments. We'll now go to item 7.5, response to motion 12 CFO of 3/15/23 by Mr. Rossi regarding the status of tutors. Mr. Rossi.
Yes, so thank you very much for this report, Ms. Turner. I just had a question about the sustainability for the tutors that were hired with the ESSER funds, 32 from grants, but there are 28 from ESSER. But 6 additional tutors were budgeted for next year per the second table. So is that 6 additional tutors per school or per the district?
That's the entire district. And as far as sustainability, the way we're handling it is we give them a pot of money, and they get to spend it in whatever way they see fit. So even when ESSER dollars dry up, if they found the tutors valuable, which they all agree, I mean, we had a significant increase. The reason you're only seeing 6 now is they did an increase from the year before to the last year, right? So there was already an increase. But they all value the tutors so much that I can only imagine that when ESSER does dry up, that a tutor might be far more affordable for them than full-time teachers that, you know what I mean?
Right, with their school site council budget money, they can make those
Right.
specific school-wide decisions. Okay. But will they all remain for this coming school year? Everyone's in place for now?
Yes, I'm not sure of the, whether they were filled or not, but whatever we are able to get, we would maintain for this coming year, because we have the final year of ESSER.
So it could become more of an issue next year? Okay, all right, thank you.
No other comments or questions on this motion response. We now move to 7.6, response to motion 15 CEO of 2123 by Mr. Lee regarding head coverings. Mr. Lee?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I want to thank Ms. Phillips for providing me this sections of the student handbook on proper dressing. It came about when the staff at the high school were have different information on what is proper and what was not proper, and clearly this this rule that we have mentioned about hoods and ski masks and whatnot, but not mentioning about the hats and caps being worn inside the building. So I suppose I get some answer. Ms. Phillips found out about that, and I want to thank that it's clear. But I feel that maybe in the future we may want to look into that about the hat and the cap, whether it is proper or not. But at this point, we have the rule and it is clear. Thank you.
Ms. Mon?
Thank you very much. I was just curious because I thought, and it was maybe 4 years ago, I'm guessing, but we did have a conversation where we made accommodations for some headscarves and other culturally appropriate accessories, I guess, whatever, headwear. That we had accommodated that we recognized that was a cultural expression that we wanted to, students to feel comfortable with. So it's not reflected in here, and I don't know if it just never made it into the policy, but I know that there was action taken by the committee to accommodate that, and it doesn't seem represented here. I don't know if Ms. Phillips knows about that, or would that be someplace else, or?
Ms. Phillips?
Mr. Mayor, school committee members, my understanding is that the only prohibited head covering is a hood. Which means that everything else is acceptable.
As long as students are, okay.
Yeah. You all set, Ms. Mon? No other comments. We'll go to the next motion response. 7.7, response to motion 8, CFO of 21523 by Mr. Lay regarding outside tuition placement and transportation costs. Mr. Lay?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you for this response. This is very good. I've seen that we spend about $15 million a year, approximately, for sending the kids outside, and about $6 million just for transportation alone. This information is is useful, I think, when we think about investing on a building that we could use to provide these services to our district. And I feel that with this money being spent per year, we could acquire a building and have this program for ourselves in right here in Lowell. So that is for the future, but thank you for the information. It's very good. Appreciate it.
Any other comments or questions on this motion response? Hearing none, we go to the next motion response, 7.8. Response to motion 7, COO of 7/13/22 by Ms. Doherty regarding updates on Lowell High School. Ms. Doherty.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to say thank you for this report. It's exactly what I was hoping to get, regular updates on what have been the challenges at the construction at the high school. So this was very helpful. I just want to say my agenda we missed. Do you have the one on the community school manager report? Because I have that listed at 7.7.
Goodness, I have 7.7, which we just went over. Was there any update on the agenda that it might have been crossed?
We have a different agenda.
Dr. Hall?
I did just cross-reference that on the online agenda because I noticed that too, and my understanding is that the report at the end of the packet under communications addresses that line item. So it was 7.7 on the now current agenda is what Ms. Turner just addressed. And the item on community schools is addressed by Ms. Desmond at the end.
So it really deserves to be a report of the superintendent. It's not a communication. Do you want to wait till we get to communication? Because I didn't see it under there.
Is it the Student Resource Center?
Yes.
Dr. Hall, is that under 10.1 that you move it to, or?
It's at the very end, yes, Your Honor. It's 10.1 is what addresses the issue.
Communication from Chief Academic Officer regarding a plan for the Student Resource Center.
So could I make a motion to take up that report now?
Okay. Motion by
motion
Ms.
7.7.
Mon, second by Ms. Thompson, to take item 10.1 out of order. 10.1 is communication from Chief Academic Officer regarding a plan for the Student Resource Center for fiscal year 24. Ms. Doherty.
Thank you. And for my colleagues, you might not have had a hard copy of it in your packet. Dr. Desmond made copies for us at the beginning of the meeting. So this was something we had voted on to add staff to the, I thought of it as the Career Academy, but it's really the Student Resource Center and the Career Academy together. And if you look at the report on page attachment B, and I don't know if Dr. Desmond would like to speak on this, but there is a motion that we would need to make. So, Your Honor, through you.
Dr. Hall to Ms. Desmond.
Thank you. So this report was created with Dr. Campion and myself. We meet regularly. Dr. Campion is the director of our Student Resource Center, and she is the former coordinator of the Engagement Center located at the Career Academy. And so we were provided through ESSER funds $1.25 million to create a comprehensive plan that supports our students most at risk. And so in that plan, we provisioned for enhancements at the Career Academy / Engagement Center located at the Career Academy in coordination with the principal, Ms. O'Laughlin. And so the first budget line item in attachment A accounts for 3 positions out of the ESSER $1.25 million resource that has been provided through the business office. And what we have identified as a team is that the Career Academy needs a math teacher to meet the graduation requirements for the students that attend the Career Academy, guidance counselor position to support the needs of the students, because at the Career Academy and the Engagement Center, students are trying to complete their credits so that they can obtain a diploma, and the community school manager position that was full-time at the Engagement Center historically for many years. The rest of the breakdown of the budget speaks to our strategies to re-engage students who have become disengaged. The students that are disengaged are the majority of our students are representative of historically underserved populations. And so it's imperative that we provide multiple entry points for those students to be able to re-engage. And so what you will see is there is some salaried dollar amounts here that will be able to help students obtain diplomas or HiSETs, HiSET prep to be able to take that, that assessment. There are salaries that are here for part-time staff that will be able to allow for us to have students come to Lowell High School after hours and be able to engage in credit recovery programs. This is a way to think outside of the box, provide avenues for students to access the remainder of their credits without having to attend during the normal time frame that our other students are attending Lowell High School. Which I will say was a suggestion from one of our committee members. It was, I believe, Ms. Martin, when we were in a subcommittee last year, who asked for us to think outside the box as far as time goes. Social workers full-time to support our students that are trying to engage in a different pathway to complete a high school diploma. Part-time tutors. And then also, we're looking to provide some stipends for our middle school staff because we really need to strengthen the supports in middle school around students who potentially may be students who are on track to drop out. We know what the data is. We know what the indicators are. They have been historically tracked for years as far as the data points that lead to students who drop out. And so we want to also strengthen our middle schools. So this is just really a breakdown of all of the items that we really feel are imperative to support next year to be able to support the Career Academy, the Engagement Center, and other pathways for our students who have not historically been able to remain at the high school to complete a diploma and encourage them to re-engage.
So at this point, I would like to make a motion that the positions of community schools manager, guidance counselor, and mathematics teacher be immediately posted no later than noon on Friday, June 23rd, so that we can begin the process of hiring the staff for the Career Academy Resource Center.
Motion by Ms. Doherty, second by Mr. Rossi. Madam Secretary, any other discussion? Mr. Lay?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just curious, is that possible to have it done? Just want to hear from Chief Operation.
I guess I have to admit, I already put math teacher and community schools program manager on the compendium this afternoon because I thought it was, well,
We voted on it during
either I thought it was going to happen or I thought it already happened, but it's not on the school stream platform, but it's been published to the whole district that it will be on the compendium. So the guidance council we certainly can do by Friday.
You all set, Mr. Lee?
Thank you.
No other comments or questions? Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Ms. Del Rossi? Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin? Yes. Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Mayor Chow?
Yes.
Ms. Chun?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Any other motion to suspend the rule, take any items out of order? Hearing none, we go back to where we left off on the agenda, which is 7.9. This is a response to motion 28, COO of 4523 by Ms. Doherty regarding feminine hygiene dispensers. Ms. Doherty?
Thank you for this report. I want to announce to all of you something I just learned tonight, that the group of students from the Daly School who have presented this proposal to us, you might recall, they came here in person, They won at the Civics Day. They took number one in the state for the best student project, which I thought was pretty awesome. And it's very gratifying to see that we are moving forward with it. I just have one question. So I'm fine with the product, the plan. Is the expectation that you've begun the acquisition process, that these will be installed for the start of the school year? Because that was really our intention from the beginning.
Yes, that's our understanding. And Mr. Underwood's here. I'd really like to thank him for leading the way on this. He drove it forward and provided most of this information. But my understanding is they'll be in place by the start of the year.
Excellent. Thank you.
No other comments or questions on this motion response. We go to the next motion response, which is 7.10, response to motion 33, COO of 5/17/23 by Ms. Doherty regarding facilities improvements, cost and timeline.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think my intention with this motion is that we would be doing a joint facility subcommittee meeting, because I think some of these items are beyond just our purview, and I would like to sit with my colleagues on the other side of government and look at how we can move forward. But I do have some questions based on this report, and I see Mr. Underwood is here. That's great. So when we talked about the costs for new furnishings,
We already have it in place.
at the Bartlett School, new lockers, wheelchair ramp, my expectation was that is going to happen sooner rather than later, because at the end, it says these projects will be conducted within 1 year's time. So the lockers, the wheelchair, I think they had broken cables and stuff too. I don't know, through you, Your Honor, if Mr. Underwood could clarify when we're looking at some of these changes. I mean, I don't know if any of you have had the opportunity to visit the Bartlett School, but it is clearly not up to par with most of our other middle schools, so.
Mr. Underwood?
The lockers at the Bartlett School have already been priced out, quotas in hand, we're waiting on funding. If funding is available quickly, we could have that done by the end of the summer. On the ramp, same thing with the ramp. The ramp is going to start as soon as school gets out this year. It's in design phase now, so both those projects, I have full confidence that they'll be done before the start of school.
So through you to our CFO, we have funding for this, right? Because we discussed it during the budget process, that there was fundings.
Yes. Ms. Turner? Yes.
Yes. So we can move forward with the purchasing and then work on getting them. So when the kids come back to the Bartlett in the fall, they'll have all new lockers and any broken furniture will be repaired. Awesome. I noticed some of the other stuff with the bathrooms and the Career Academy in particular. That culinary program, as my colleagues might recall, that equipment was purchased 6 years ago and has just been sitting there. So we're looking at the price to complete. We still don't have quotes on the electric and gas lines. And I'm just trying to get, again, we're hearing it's going to be another year. What about the basketball hoops? I thought that was going to be much sooner.
Basketball hoop is also, a purchase order has been already entered into that, and installation of that will be done over the summer.
Okay.
Ms. Turner?
Including the Riverside also. The Riverside gets one.
I love that. I didn't even know about the Riverside, but I really think we need to be looking at our schools from that equity lens. Does everybody have, the environment that's going to be conducive to learning?
Ms. Turner, did you want to add something?
I just wanted to say I did follow up to make sure, so I followed up with Ricky and the principal at the Career Academy, and Ricky did say it would be, something was happening by Friday with the culinary, which, just so you know, we've been trying to work with her over the last, several years ago when she first brought it up that she had a grant that made her get the free equipment, but we had to wait on the city, and there were delays, then COVID. But as far as the basketball, when I followed up with her, she said they do have the basketball hoops. The concern is they want to have basketball, like a pavement. So I don't know if you're able to work with her to see if the city can do that.
I did not do any work on the pavement. That is actually was a new request that just came that I was just made aware of on the pavement. So work was done on acquiring the basketball and the installation, but nothing to date has been talked about for the pavement.
Okay.
Ms. Doherty?
Thank you. I think part of what I'd like to accomplish with this joint meeting, Mr. Underwood, is to be able to separate out, okay, what can we take care of and what are we asking the city? Because I'm assuming that 400,000 in bathrooms, and the bathrooms, well, they were horrible at the Bartlett too, but they were really bad at the Career Academy. Is that something we're waiting on the city for as well?
It was put in as a 24 capital request. Whether it makes the request from the city side, I'm not sure on that right now, but it was entered as a capital request to the city from the school department.
So when we get together with the council, the facility subcommittee on the council, it would be a good idea to have very clear delineation, like we're taking care of this, this is a high priority for us, where does it fit in the city's plan? I really don't want to go through another school year with these kids in these inadequate facilities. I think it's embarrassing and not fair to them. But I think this is a great start. Thank you all. And we will be polling, to get that scheduled with the council once we figure out their summer schedule and when we could meet. Thank you.
Could I just address one?
Dr. Hall?
Sure, and I just wanted to, and I do think this is a great motion for the motion for the committee and the public, but I did want to thank Mr. Underwood and his team for all their work they did in getting us through the school year. It's very difficult to be the facilities team when, as Ms. Doherty pointed out, sometimes we're in the middle of what we think the city should be handling and what needs to be done for the kids, and he does an excellent job of navigating that. I also wanted to point out, too, we moved on to another motion, but that word on the street at Lowell High on the construction, Dr. Howe is behind doing a lot of that, and unfortunately, she's retiring now, so she'll be a great loss, and we'll have to find another person to draft that, but I just wanted to mention her for her work on that motion. And lastly, we have an update in here on the STEM architect and OPM. We expect on Friday to get more information for the committee, which we'll send out to you. And as mentioned in the report, by July 15th, the committee can decide whether or not it wants to proceed and what option to go under. Preliminarily, it looks like it would be about another $500,000 to get 700 to 800,000 to get 8 classrooms versus 6 classrooms, but the solicitor still has to opine on what site can be used to evaluate the 3 options for the committee. So we expect all that to be worked out, depending on that opinion, by Friday, which we'll attempt to publish for you for an upcoming meeting.
Ms. Mon?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to make a suggestion as we're kind of entering into the new fiscal year, and I think this would affect the, what I would assume will be ongoing joint meetings with the council. Both from the school side and the city side, particularly from the school side, we are looking at ESSER funds ending at the end of this year. I would like to make a recommendation that as we begin FY24, that we get monthly reports on the spend down of ESSER, because I think we're going to need to be very nimble in terms of ensuring that we spend that down appropriately. It's obviously, it's going to be a challenge. We all know that. But what I would hate to do would be for us to miss out on making facility investments that we could make with those dollars, just because, we weren't tracking it over time. So I think if we can look on a monthly basis on what that spend down looks like, as we have, and it's going to happen, there'll be vacancies, things will happen that we won't be able to spend those dollars. If we're tracking it really closely, we'd be able to then have the joint facilities committees that I'm not on, thank goodness for everyone, you guys could really have an ongoing list of priorities that as monies became available, we could be really nimble in being able to implement things quickly, so we don't find ourselves in a situation where we've missed an opportunity. Thank you.
Ms. Thompson?
I'm also not on that committee, but I do have, exactly. So I do have a suggestion or a thought, and I'm not sure if Mr. Underwood has already been kind of thinking this or in this vein, is I think we really also need to be thinking about our, our digital footprint and, making really sustainable and climate change conscious purchases as well. So I know those are a bit more expensive, but again, when you're thinking about the kind of using the money appropriately, I think that's something we need to make sure we're thinking about as well.
No other comments or questions? Wonderful. Need a motion to accept the reports of the superintendent, 7.1 through 7.10 as report of progress by Ms. Mon, second by Mr. Lee. All in favor say aye, opposed say no. The ayes have it. Motion is carried. That completes the superintendent report. We're now going to new business, section 8, and we'll start with 8.1. A vote to accept a donation of $5,000 from the Links for Learning sweepstakes. Dr. Hall, would you mind giving us a brief description of that?
Sure, Mayor. There's a report by Ms. Turner in the packet that a fifth grade student at the Stockloosa Middle School entered Links for Learning sweepstakes sponsored by the Eric Sausage Company and won $5,000 pending acceptance by the school committee. These monies would go to the Stockloosa K-8 student activity account for the purpose of field trips.
No other comments or questions on this? Need a motion to accept that donation of $5,000 by Ms. Thompson, second by Ms. Chun. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Ms. Del Rossi? Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin? Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Mayor Chow?
Yes.
Ms. Chun?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
We already have taken up item 8.2. We now go to section 9, which is the convention and conference request. 9.1 is out of country and overnight travel request for Lowell High School students and chaperones to travel to Costa Rica. Any comments or questions by any of the member? Hearing none, need a motion by Ms. Doherty, second by Mr. Rossi. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Ms. Del Rossi? Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Mayor Chow?
Yes.
Ms. Chun?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
We already have taken up item 10.1, and before we adjourn the meeting, any announcement by any of the members? Any announcements? Hearing none, need a motion to adjourn by Ms. Thompson, second by Ms. Mon. All in favor say aye, opposed say no. The ayes have it. Motion is carried. Thank you everyone for being here to participate in the meeting, and thank you everyone who's watching from home. Have a good night.